When I get asked why I became so enthralled with sports history, my response is always the same: the people. As much as I love digging into stat sheets and advanced metrics, at the end of the day, it's the little stories that make doing this so much fun. One of said stories is that of Yoshio Mizukami. On the surface, Mizukami was nothing special, a role-playing shortstop who managed to luck himself into a gold glove and a best nine while playing most of his career on a middle-of-the-pack Lotte Orions team. But if you asked him in high school, he wouldn't have expected to even get that far. Hailing from Yokosuka in Kanagawa Prefecture, Mizukami was a decently rated pitcher in junior high, and he entered Toen High School in Yokohama in 1973. This is not to be confused with Osaka Toen, the baseball powerhouse that wouldn't be founded for another 15 years. While Mizukami was a high school star, he never expected to play in NPB. He saw corporate ball as his ceiling, and honestly, he would have been happy with just a normal life as a salaryman. Then the Lotte Orions took him with the 25th overall pick in the 1975 draft. Mizukami was caught slightly off guard by the selection, but figured, hey, why not? While he started his career simply as a pinch runner, by 1979 he was the Orions' starting shortstop. He was awful. Like, literally one of the worst qualified seasons in NPB history. Sub-Mendoza line, 22 WRC+, piss-poor defense, the whole shebang. The next year his job was basically to lay down sac bunts when there were people on base. But still, he managed to hit a career-high 15 home runs. But it was his defense that improved massively, seemingly overnight, and it netted him the only gold glove of his career. Mizukami credited this to, well, good fundies. Don't make it flashy, just make the play. Mizukami remained a starting caliber shortstop for most of the rest of the decade, and even picked up a Best 9 award in 1987, which was the best season he ever put up. Still not amazing though. But it was the next year, in 1988, where our story really starts. He was so busy before training camp that he forgot to get a haircut. But since his batting average was still hovering around 300 at the start of the season, he elected to keep his hair long. The higher-ups at Lotte were not happy. Japanese baseball culture has always favored players having close-cropped hair and them being clean-shaven. This even extends to high school baseball, which has led some critics of the approach to brand it as creating baseball robots. While Mizukami wasn't really trying to rebel against anything, as his decision to keep his hair long was more rooted in superstition than anything, Japanese baseball was going through a transitional period in the 80s, and any little bit of rebellion was seized on by the press. Mizukami was called unsightly by his coaches and veteran teammates, and they demanded he cut his hair. When Masaichi Kaneda returned to manage the team, he hated Mizukami's haircut so much that some people think it was the catalyst for Kaneda trading him away in the 1989-90 offseason. In reality, it was more so to do with the players Hiroshima were giving up. The Carp traded franchise legend Yoshihiko Takahashi and back-of-the-rotation starter Yoshihisa Shiratake to the Orions. You may think that sounds like a fleecing, but Mizukami was really just the supplementary piece of the deal, with the real prize being Hideaki Takazawa. Mizukami would finally be forced to cut his mullet, but he was allowed to keep his hair at medium length. He would play 1 year for the Carp before being traded to the Fukuoka Daiei Hawks for cash in 1991. He'd retire in 1992 after only playing 6 games for the club that season. After spending much of the 90s just trying to adjust to life after baseball, including working in Kanagawa's fish markets and coaching youth baseball, Mizukami would resurface as an analyst in the early 2000s, thanks in part to many of his former Orions teammates. He even landed a job as a fielding coach for the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters in 2007. He also spent much of the mid-2010s as a coach in the Hawks system. Since 2019, he's been managing Tachibana High School's baseball club, back in Yokohama. While Mizukami's career may not have been all that impressive when you just look at his numbers, the man himself still affected baseball in more ways than he could have known. Not only did he start conversations surrounding how baseball players carried themselves and acted, but he also just simply wasn't afraid to be himself. In a society like Japan that is conformist to a fault, even a small act of harmless rebellion against it is commendable. In the years since, NPB players have felt far more free to express themselves as people, rather than trying to fit into the archetype of what a baseball player should be. Long hair, dyed hair, facial hair, chains, custom gear, none of them are really out of place anymore. And in some ways, we have Yoshio Mizukami to thank for that. Even the most unassuming players can have stories all their own, and at the end of the day, that is the beauty of sports. The world needs more Yoshio Mizukamis. As always, big ups to my patrons: Juan Jose Sanchez Bracamontes, Alex Irish, The Frilled Shark, Julian Willie, Ryan Fox, Lucas Boria, G, Mentasmic, Joe Hironaka, Tom Musa, The Baseball Brit, The Japanese Baseball Discord, Eric Cooper, and Anthony Pang. Sorry for the long break between videos. I've got a huge project coming up that'll probably start coming out sometime next month. And to everyone else, I've been Gaijin Baseball. Peace.